We've got it first this evening here on Loudwire Nights. Matt Bigland, frontman for Dinosaur Pileup, is joining us on this show. And I must say, that is an amazing last name. It conjures up images of like grandeur and just big and strong. It's a great
thanks very much. Yeah, I've had a few people say that was a made-up stage name. In our early days when we were getting slammed in a couple of interviews, someone was like, oh yeah, and he's got this stage name, Bigland. And I was like, that's actually my legit name. Thank you.
That's awesome. It's a great name. And speaking of great, I don't know who runs your Twitter, but they recently asked, speaking of names, be honest, is Dinosaur Pileup a shit band name? And there were a variety of opinions. If you were starting a band in 2019, what would you name it? And do you think it's a shit name?
So that was Mikey. Mikey runs the Twitter, and he's a funny dude. Like, he kind of crushed it with that tweet because so many people got in touch, like, chatting about it. If I was to call the band anything now in 2019, if we started it now, I'd probably just call it Dinosaur. I think that's actually a sick name. However, when I came up with Dinosaur Pileup, which I came up with from the Peter Jackson remake with Jack Black of the remake of King Kong. I was at the movies with my buds. We watched that, and there was that literal Dinosaur Pileup scene, which is totally ridiculous. And when we left the cinema, I was like, okay, I made a bet that the next time I made a band, I would call it Dinosaur Pileup, and blah, blah, blah. When it came to making the band, I couldn't think of anything to call it. So I just called it Dinosaur Pileup anyway because of that. But little did I know, 12 years later, I'd still be kind of talking about that and like not regretting it because I love the band and I love the band name and it is what it is, but it's just like for me and Mikey and Jim, it's kind of an ongoing joke that we called the band a sucky name.
It is a unique name, not a sucky name, a unique name.
Totally. Yeah, we have a lot of people like getting in touch about the name. They're like, oh yeah, we checked you guys out purely because the name was kind of interesting. But then sometimes we'll get people being like, oh yeah, I didn't check you out for ages because of the name. But anyway.
All right, we'll move on. We'll move on to the band's latest record. It's called Celebrity Mansions, released in June. And we got to talk about the cover art, of course. It's you looking, hammered. There's no other word. I don't know if you were or you weren't. So you're stuffing pizza into your face, like, making a funny face in your undies, I guess. Yeah. So What inspired that piece of art?
So that is actually a really cool moment. That picture was taken as we were rolling out of St. Petersburg in Florida. So the backstory to that picture is we bought an RV because we had like 3 back-to-back US tours lined up, and we were like, how are we going to afford to do this? Because obviously renting a van and staying in even super cheap motels, getting by, however, we were like, we just like can't afford it. So we costed it up, and we realized that if we bought this banged-out second-hand RV that we'd found, we'd be able to afford, it was like half the price. And then at the end of those 3 tours, we could maybe try and sell the RV. So that was like the most cost-effective way of doing it. So we bought this RV. We came out to the States. We were touring in this RV, living in it. And that picture was taken as we rolled out of St. Petersburg, Florida. We just played a venue called Janus Live. And it was like a tropical rainstorm, like thunder, lightning, pouring down with rain, like sheet rain. So we had to do a night drive. So our guys, Mike and our tour manager, Ollie, they pulled up the RV. Me and Jim ran out and got a couple of slices of pizza from this little pizza shack that was just outside Janus Live. So we grab these slices of pizza, we run to the RV in this pouring rain. Everyone is soaked through because the rain's so heavy. And we jump in the RV, obviously take our tops off because they're like literally dripping wet, like the whole place is soaked. So we rip our tops off, chowing on the pizza, and Jim holds up my old 35mm Nikon camera that I got on eBay for like £10, and I like document all our tours on it. He holds up my little camera and just takes, you can't see that. It's not like a phone where you're taking a selfie. You can't see what you're taking. So he just like points at us and shoots that photo. And then when we get home after the tour's done and we're trying to figure out artwork for the record when it was just about to come out, we're going through the photos and we come across that photo. And I was like, well, 1, that's an awesome picture. And 2, it kind of describes everything about us writing that record and the kind of couple of years prior to the record being written. That one picture kind of describes that whole period of time. us crushed in our RV, eating pizza most likely, and just like, just grinding. So we kind of thought it was an appropriate photograph. My mum hates it. My nipples on it,
That's funny. So those weren't even special photo shoot undies. Thankfully, you can't see them because it's like waist up. But that's
yeah. No, they were. When I've probably been wearing them for a couple of days.
TMI.
Yeah.
When coming up with the name for the record, Celebrity Mansions, from what I've gathered, a part of it was wondering, are we wasting our time here? Will we get our break? Has that perspective shifted for you at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that the title of the record, the title track, Celebrity Mansions, and the whole rest of the record was written whilst touring the States in that RV that I just spoke about. And yeah, like you said, our perspective was kind of negative, I guess, because the whole time we're just grinding and no one's noticing or no one seemingly cares. You're looking at social media and just seeing all these people that have this like super perfect life, like success, like wealth, all of this stuff just seemingly comes so easily. And maybe for reasons that you're like, really? Like, is that important in this day and age? That's what people are excited about. And then, you're out in this RV just like killing yourself, like trying to scrape enough money from a show to buy pizza afterwards. I guess that got us down a little bit. And you know what? Like, it was right up until like we made the record still in that mindset, because when we got back from all those tours, we were touring the States like 3 years, like we were doing the world, I guess, but most of it was in the States, I guess. And when we got back from that long touring period, we went and made the record. We went and made the record in Brixton in South London with our bud. He's an amazing producer called Larry Hibbett. We did it for super cheap. Our management were like totally had our backs, but they were like, we're going to be honest, we don't have a lot of options here. No one's interested, like no one's biting. We don't really know what we're going to do with this. So me and Mike and Jim were just like, let's just go make this record for us, I guess. Let's have fun with it. Let's make a record that we're super proud of. And if that's the last thing we do, then that's the last thing we do. And it was only when we'd made the record, we'd finished the record, and we sent Backfoot to Mitch Mitchell, who had previously, Mitch Mitchell of Parlophone, that is, and he'd previously heard a couple of tracks and kind of maybe passed on them. And when he heard the whole record and he heard Backfoot and stuff, obviously we did a deal with Parlophone very quickly. And I guess the fact that we went through all of that, long story short, I went the long way around, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But the fact that we went through all of that on our own, and even though we had no options and it felt like no one cared and no one was asking us for songs, we were doing it on our own in isolation for us, and that was scary. But the fact that we did that made something we were super proud of with no one watching. And then right when that was finished, Mitch comes in, he's like, I'm signing this next week, like this is awesome. It was kind of validating for us because we'd done something good here. And I guess it kind of made all of those low points that we'd had in the writing of the record, it kind of made them all kind of not worthwhile. Do you know what I mean? Like, It kind of validated us, I guess, for kind of continuing. So I don't know. We're just like super proud of it, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, you should be, right? Backfoot, we've been playing it on Loudwire nights often, and I can say it's the first time we've ever played Dinosaur Pileup on the show, so progress there. So tell us about what inspired the song and how it came together.
What inspired Backfoot?
Yeah.
So, Backfoot, funny story actually. I wrote Backfoot in the shower. I often write a lot of tunes in the shower, or at least the idea for the song. And I wrote Backfoot in the shower and kind of came up with that riff. And I was like, I don't know, it kind of seems like too weird and like too like a scale or something. So I just recorded it on my phone and kind of forgot about it. It was only about 4 days later that I kind of remembered it. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. And I kind of sang that cadence over it. And I was like, damn, that's actually awesome. And then I kind of just like worked on it for the next 4 days straight. But I guess the subject matter of that song is about that same feeling that we had in the RV. It's about just really believing in something, really trying to do something and putting everything into that. And every time you take a step forward, it just feels like you're taking 4 steps backwards. But all you're trying to do is that thing. You're just trying to climb the ladder. But every time you go up one step, you're going down three, you know? So it kind of felt like, I guess for us throughout that period of time, touring up until making Celebrity Mansions, it just kind of felt like we were always going backwards, even though we were just trying to go forwards. And I guess that's the idea, that's where the idea of always being on the back foot kind of came from. Trying our hardest, like giving it everything we got, sacrificing everything to kind of just keep going. But like it kind of just kept on feeling like no one cared and we were just getting knocked backwards the whole time. So I guess
that's relatable. Yeah, that's no matter what field you work in. I mean, the first 10 years, unless you're like an influencer, which I think that we both don't like, unless you're one of those like 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds trying to do whatever, your first 10 years are just grinding away. So outside of just being in a band, that's relatable regardless.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Nirvana comparisons, right? So 3-piece band, you got that kind of Cobain look going. You're a vocalist / guitarist, name dropping Cobain and Grohl in Key West. Clearly an influence, and the comparisons are there. Does that sit well with you?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's funny. I love Nirvana. They're awesome. Why wouldn't you love Nirvana? But obviously, like, a lot of people on the surface level are like, oh, you look like Kurt Cobain. It's like, well, I don't really. Like, if you actually look at me, I look nothing like him. But yes, I have long hair and I'm in a 3-piece band. We used to kind of care about it, like, I think it was a negative. Now we're just like, whatever. If anything, that's cool. Nirvana, one of the greatest rock bands of all time. So that's rad. But like, it's kind of funny that people still are sometimes like, oh yeah, you're really similar to Nirvana. And it's like, I don't know, have you listened to Backfoot?
Yeah.
I'm basically rapping on that song. I don't know. Nirvana rapping would have been a weird thing.
I don't really hear it. I maybe a little bit see it. And it's not like the annoying comparisons where it's like, oh, they're ripping off their sound. It's like there's just some sort of similarity there, but you're not getting like the whole Led Zeppelin, Greta Van Fleet thing happening. Whatever. We don't have to get
totally, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And like sometimes, yeah, no, definitely. Sometimes I guess that's kind of partly accidental because we saw a picture of us the other, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or something, and I'd kind of just forgotten that there's 3 of us, and you know, our like Jim on the bass is kind of like this beardy dude, and Mikey kind of just crushes the drums. I guess like Dave Grohl would have, like, you know, I'm like, fair enough. Like, that's just kind of happened accidentally, but we're just kind of doing our thing and just kind of getting on with it, you know. Like, comparisons will always be a thing until people suddenly realize that you're doing your own thing, and then they're like, oh, damn, that's actually really good. So we're just kind of doing our thing, you know. People will get it eventually.
Agreed, 100%. I just spoke with Josh Katz. That's the story I was telling you off air where I lost internet. Anyway, so I just spoke with Josh Katz of Bad Flower, and I asked him who the nicest band they've ever toured with is, and they didn't say you. I'm sorry. They said they said Shinedown, and I'm guessing you guys probably agree, considering obviously they purchased you all a backdrop while you were recently on tour with the band. I mean, that's an amazing story.
They're just, the Shinedown dudes are just amazing. Like, they're an example of what you should be as people if you're in a band. That's how you do it, you know. The backdrop thing is just unbelievable. I could talk for ages about it, so I'll try and condense it as much as I can. But basically, we went on the Shinedown tour, and Bad Flower on it, and Broken Hands are on it. It was such a great group of people. But we had this crappy little backdrop. It's like the size of a T-shirt, pretty much. And when you're playing those Shinedown shows, which are freaking massive, you know, like big amphitheaters, you know, our backdrop, it just looked pathetic. Like, and that's all we had. That's all we've been touring for a while. People don't really know, but like, you know, I guess why would anyone know? But backdrops are like really expensive because they have to be made out of this fireproof material. You have to get them checked and stuff. So they're bizarrely expensive for what they are, which is essentially just like a flag. So we were touring with our little crappy ripped up backdrop, which during the Shinedown tour got literally ripped, so we couldn't even hang it anymore. So I just had to kind of throw it over my amps vaguely. And it was just like, it was a sorry sight, but that's all we had, so we were just getting on with it. And I think the Shinedown guys, being the super nice dudes that they are, they saw that early on, and they're like, that's not okay. So without us knowing at all, they organized to have a festival headliner-sized backdrop designed for us with our logo. They paid for it. they got it shipped to a venue in Phoenix where we were playing, and they hung it on with all the other backdrops, with their backdrop, with Bad Flowers' backdrop, and they hung it without us knowing, which is amazing in itself considering we had a sound check. So I have no idea how they got that past us pre-show. Anyway, so we're on stage in Phoenix. We're playing to there's about 5,000 people in the venue watching us at the time. And really quickly, the sound guy, my monitor engineer, who's basically the guy controlling what I can hear on stage, he comes in on my in-ear monitors, the little things in my ear so I can hear stuff. And he's like, Matt, we've got a really big problem with the sound desk, which means no one can hear anything. We've got to fix it. Can you talk about the banner a little bit? Because previous to this show, I'd been talking about our pathetic banner because it was just such a joke. I kind of made a bit out of it, I guess. So I was like, okay, what the hell? I was kind of a bit, shook. I didn't really know what was going on. So I started talking about our little backdrop. I kind of got through the story, and then I had to start playing again. And then I realized everyone was shouting at me from Mikey on drums, screaming at me, being like, Matt, I think we're getting cut. You've got to stop. And I turn around, and there's 12 people, including, Shinedown's crew. They're walking on stage behind the kit, and I was like, oh my god, we are getting cut. Something's happening, so we're getting pushed off stage or something. And I look at the guys, and they all stop at the backdrop, all of them in front of the backdrop, and they all just rip the backdrop down. And behind this kind of black veil that they ripped down is our brand new backdrop that I've obviously never seen in my life, and it's literally 60 foot wide or something insane, with our logo right across it. And I was just like, what is happening right now? And obviously the crowd went nuts, and me and Mike and Jim were just what is happening? We look around to my right, I guess it would have been, and all the Shinedown guys, all the crew, everyone on the tour is watching us side of stage, which I hadn't noticed because I guess I was in the zone or whatever. They're all there watching it happen. It was the nicest thing that's ever happened to us on tour. That stuff doesn't happen often or ever, I would say. And the fact that they saw something that we needed as a struggling band or whatever, and they spent their own money, a lot of their own money, making it happen and getting it to us, and made it a surprise, is just above and beyond just how generous they are and just how thoughtful that is. So yeah, I mean, they're just the sweetest dudes. And when we went to thank them, we were just obviously bowled over. They were we don't want you to thank us. We just want you to have your own success. And when you do have your own success, we want you to pay it forward and do that for some other band that needs it, which I thought was just an amazing sentiment, an amazing an amazing thing to say, I guess.
So sweet.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I've interviewed Brett on a number of occasions, and I'm always he's the nicest guy. He can't possibly be this nice in real life. He's just doing that because I'm interviewing. And everybody's no, they are legit the nicest guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, legit.
Love
legit
it.
The nicest dudes.
All right, we will wrap on this Dinosaur pilot hitting Canada with The Offspring and Sum 41. So just what else is coming up for the band? What did I not touch on that I should have?
I mean, dude, you touched on everything, really. Obviously, we just got back from the Shinedown tour on our own headline tour running through the States. Mm-hmm. We were out for 10 weeks, which is the longest tour we've ever done in our lives, and seemingly the longest tour anyone else has ever heard of. So we were kind of stoked that we kind of made it through that alive, and the whole thing was so great, and we met loads of people and everything. We're really stoked on that. The next thing coming up is the Canada tour, which is awesome, because we've only ever dipped into Canada for a show in Toronto or, just one-offs on US tours, but we're just so stoked to be doing a specific tour that's just in Canada, because we can't wait for that. And also with The Offspring and Sum 41, we're just so stoked on that. And we know Pete on drums in The Offspring, and he's just the loveliest guy ever. So we're stoked to kind of get out with him and obviously meet the guys. And we've watched Sum 41 last year or 2 years ago or something. We were on a run of US festivals, and Sum 41 we're doing a couple of them, and we got to kind of watch them side of stage, which was just so rad, because they kill live.
I've never seen them live. I've never seen them.
Dude, they shred.
Really?
I mean, I think they're great, but I didn't expect that. They kick ass live. So we're just really pumped. That's just such a great lineup for us. So we're super pumped about that. Then we fly straight off the back of that, straight into the UK to do a little headline run in the UK, which is ending in Scala in London, which is going to like be off the chain. So we're really excited about that. Like that's such an amazing venue. So we're pumped on that, and then that'll be basically Christmas. And then I think we're going to be jumping out to the States again, like springtime for some festivals and stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. That's so good. You guys are staying busy. It seems like Celebrity Mansion's doing good, positive, big things for the band. It is available everywhere for your listening pleasure. Thank you so much, Matt Bigland, frontman for Dinosaur Pilot. Man, it was a pleasure having you on. Please, let's do this again.
Dude, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.